I love the Cube
It's
car.
your Cube car. Yeah. Yeah. Nothing weird about that.
Ignore the subtitles in the bottom left that from the episode I screenshotted it from.
Wait, would you like to change that before we continue? Or
No,
okay, all right.
of course not.
Just checking. Fair enough.
It's not my channel to get copyright struck.
You're not gonna get copyright struck over a picture of Cube.
I don't know, Cube's pretty cool.
Anyway, shall we? Shall we get to work?
I suppose.
All right. So this is I do everything in Google Docs, you guys. It's just the easiest thing. So if you don't do it, definitely do it. It's so helpful for sharing documents across things and saving stuff and all that. Like it's ideal. Definitely use Google Docs. So this is where I write all of my scripts. I have a file every month. I start a new file every month for my scripts, and then I just sort of let it roll. By the end of the month, the files run anywhere from 70 to 100 pages for whatever scripts I wrote that month, and then I kick over to the next month. So for a while, I just had this one massive ongoing file. That was a terrible idea. Breaking it up by month is a lot smarter. So there's that. All right, so the first thing we need to do is talk about what kind of story we want to tell. So, Rural, do you have any suggestions, or should we just let the chat start making suggestions?
As an indecisive person, I'm gonna leave it to chat. I don't like making decisions.
Wow, are you in the wrong job? All right, so let's think of something that we can do from a script. It's never a bad idea, sure. From a script perspective. So let's think two characters, a listener and a speaker. I'm not going to be performing this, so I care a lot less about like sounds and stuff like that. I probably won't be performing this. Hopefully, I won't be performing this unless it turns out to something you guys really, really want, like pocketry. That was a good time.
I feel like you're gonna be performing it.
I guess we'll find out. So, what kind of story would you guys like to tell? If you're thinking of two characters interacting, first we need to figure out who the characters are, we need to put them in a setting, and we need to give them something to do. Hey, thank you for the follow. So, this workshop is for you guys. This is for chat. I don't want to just have it be a passive thing where I'm writing and you guys are watching me write. I want chat to make suggestions. I want you guys to tell the story that you would like to tell, or to let me help you tell the story that you'd like to tell. So, characters, setting, and something for them to do. Does anybody have anything they want to do with that? If you don't, I will just start writing something, but I'd really rather have chat have a hand in this. I think that'd be a lot more fun. We could just sit here and listen to the really chill jams.
Or just sit here in silence because I have your stream muted.
Listener comes out to the main character as gay. Okay, so a coming out one. That's true. I haven't done that one, I don't think. So
Not sure if that's a great one to write as a group because that's like relatively sensitive, but
yeah, I was just
it's
thinking
a start.
as a group, right? It's a little. And I'll be honest, like the first thing I thought was, do people still come out? Like I feel like at least in my bubble, it's just so accepted to be some flavor of LGBT that like. But I know people do still come out. It's just like in my bubble, it's not really a thing. But I need to have a bigger perspective on that.
Or in my experience, the people who like do you have the whole coming out, don't coming out, it's just the people they tell and the people they don't tell.
Yeah, like exactly. Like people they
Like their
trust and people they don't
families.
trust. Yeah. But,
Or yeah.
and I guess I just yeah, for a group, right, that might be a little sensitive, but also like I'm trying to feel that like, and Vod knows especially because Vod is one of my Olympian patrons, so he's very accustomed to bringing me ideas and having me sit and chew on them until I dismantle them accidentally because I break all my toys. But coming up with how to like place myself in that situation, because obviously I'm always writing for myself, and And I guess part of me is like, I would hope that if it was me, if somebody was coming to me with this because they were concerned that I wouldn't accept them, which is already, like, I already feel like I failed as a friend if they have any reason to think I'm not going to accept them. Like, if I've ever given any indication that I'm not accepting and embracing of everything that, like, I have fucked up. But even then, like, I would hope it's only like a 2-minute conversation. You know, I wouldn't want it to be a big ass thing. Like, I would want it to be like, of course I accept you. There's never any doubt of that. Let's go get some ice cream. Like, just that easy kind of thing. Like, I don't want it to be a heart-rending, tear-jerking thing. Because again, I feel like if it is, they had actual concerns that I wasn't going to be okay with it. So I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want them to have actual concerns of that. I'd want them to trust that I would be okay. And I don't know. I feel, let me chew on that for a little longer, Vaughn. You know how I am with the chewing. 2 strangers waiting for a steam ferry. A steam ferry. That's an interesting one. I haven't ever done anything with a steam ferry before. That, you know...
Almost like steam ferries aren't around anymore.
No, I do a lot of historical or fantasy stuff, but like...
Yeah.
But you know I would go down the rabbit hole of researching exactly what sound a steam ferry makes and things like that, so I could put that in the background. Like, which major rivers in the United States had steam ferries in the 1800s? And yeah.
I mean, it also depends on, like, what part of the 1800s.
That's true. It's a broad...
And, like, where. Because a lot of things changed.
Yeah.
And also
like
war existed.
It'd be like late 1800s. And yeah, I wouldn't say during a war period, probably, unless that was part of the plot. Like, why are they talking about life? Maybe it's because of war.
Yeah, but that would change the introspective discussion depending on, like, which period you choose and where.
Yeah. This is fun to chew on. That would be a fun one to write, but I feel like I would have to have about 17 tabs open with historical information in them so that I could get it just right. Steampunk airship travel. I mean, that would have been cool in the 1800s, but I'm pretty sure it didn't exist, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
2 monsters having a conversation about how annoying the humans are with all the running and screaming and pitchforks. So, like, are the monsters actively attacking the humans and the humans are pissed about it, or are the monsters just kind of doing their own thing and the humans are showing up with pitchforks? And
I assume it's like just because they're ugly monsters, they're like, you gross ugly monsters, and they chase them away.
So every time the monsters
like, that's
show
how
up,
it reads to me.
Okay. So the monsters really can't do anything because the humans won't let them, kind of thing?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That could actually dovetail with the introspective discussion of life, honestly. Like, why do humans?
Monsters in the 1800s waiting for a steam ferry.
Not monsters in the 1800s, just monsters full stop. Getting annoyed with humans, but also having a conversation about why things are the way they are. Yeah, see, this is fun. This is how we do these things. We spitball, we kind of come up with different ideas.
I only need words. If you give me a word, I can come up with an idea just for you.
It could be monsters waiting for a steam ferry.
It could be.
What if they were monsters disguised as humans, but they knew they were monsters? And they're having a conversation.
I feel like you might be getting a bit complicated for a short audio.
I mean...
Humans disguised as monsters, figuring out each other as monsters while also having an introspective talk about life while waiting for a steam ferry that may also be steampunk and an airship.
Yeah.
God.
You realize some of the stuff I've made into audios, right? Like, some of the things I make audios out of are a little out there. So, okay, how about this? So we got 2 monsters disguised as humans waiting for their steam ferry. Actually, let's not do the steam ferry, only because as we are writing this, I'm going to want to be
accurate. That's integral.
It's not integral. It's just there. Like, it's...
There's no monsters without steam ferries. Everyone knows this. It's
I feel like
world
you're just
building.
here to be
You
chaotic.
talked about world building.
I know, but
And
that's
now
the
you're
problem.
backing down from world building?
No, I'm not. I'm actually saying I would like to world build this properly, which means having to do a shit ton of research into 1800 steam fairies. So I can't do that on the
Then
fly.
we can't do monsters, because there's no monsters that have steam fairies. Everybody knows this.
Oh my god, stop talking. All right, so
Okay.
it's a MacGuffin there because they meant the fairy. Yeah, exactly. It's just the plot device that throws them together. So it doesn't even have to be. Okay, so then all right, let's do this. Let's
Ocean
assume that
passengers don't have monsters. That's weird.
it could be ocean passenger ship. It could be like a raft. It could be a bridge. It could be anything. Let's decide on a setting. I don't want to do 1800s right this second, only because of the historical thing, because you guys know how I am with historical accuracy, and I will have to open 17 tabs for this. So instead of 1800s, let's either pick modern day or some sort of fantasy situation. Either way, we're gonna do human or monsters disguised as humans. But we could either do like roughly now, or like waiting for a train or a ferry or a ship or whatever, or it could be a fantasy situation, same deal. They could be waiting for, I mean, fairies exist in fantasy situations, boats exist, you know, mass transit could even exist, honestly. It's fantasy, you can do whatever the hell you want. So monsters can absolutely cross rivers. Yes, they can.
No, they can't.
Yes, they can. Fantasy fairy.
You just don't understand.
Hey, Echo. Monsters having a chat in a bar or coffee shop. Time agnostic is always good. Because again, the setting, if the point of this is the conversation, the setting doesn't matter as much. But when we come to the side where we're going to try doing some of this from a prose perspective, we need a little bit of setting. We need some description. And that's where I start to get really, like, again, if I don't ever perform this, I'm not going to worry so much about the soundscaping. But I care a little bit about the history and stuff like that. Monster of the week kind of situation. Yeah, I mean, if it's two monsters just sort of in disguise as humans, trying to pass as humans through life, trying to, you know, it's got a little bit of that Wolf Among Us vibe. We just played that the other day. That whole, like,
Among Us?
put on your glamour so that the Mundies don't realize, you know, anything, and could be waiting at the metro. Yeah, that would work. I have ridden public transit, so I do know what that is like.
True. So if we work off of that, like, because the setting is just general, where it's either a fantasy, because like if you're waiting for like some kind of fairy, it's either a fantasy world with fairies or relatively modern day. Like, so we can work off of that, but we do need to establish other things, like how monster society functions, because that will really change like how they talk and what they do. Because like if do humans know about monsters? I'd assume not, given that. So
no. Yeah, exactly.
In
so
which case,
let's flesh out the parameters a little bit. So let's talk about, we got characters, got two monsters disguised as humans. Setting, probably public transit of some type. Okay, so hey Halo. So we want to build out the world a little bit. We don't necessarily need all the details of the world we build out for the audio, because we're not going to do the exposition dump thing. We're not going to have one of them be like, isn't it unfortunate that we live in a world where we have to hide ourselves from humans and blah, blah, blah. Like, they're not going to talk about it. Where we enter the story, both of them already have this knowledge, so this is going to be a trickle-in kind of thing. The information will be trickled in based on context clues, a couple of things that are said. You'll get the gist that they're both monsters disguised as humans. Like, that will come across. It's just a matter of how we do it. The magic is happening. Woo, the magic. Okay, so we've got two monsters disguised as humans, and we've got a public transit setting. Do they know each other before this?
I mean, the original pitch was like essentially two strangers.
Oh, it's two monsters.
So
it could be just two monsters traveling together, or it could be two monsters that just like they run into each other on the same platform every day for a year, kind of thing.
I think it'd be like that would work, but like in my head, it was like, because how you were setting it up made it sound to me like they didn't know each other, and it was some weird like mind game while they talked that wasn't like directly, oh, you're a monster. It's like, Oh, you know those kids on Halloween? They're so bigoted, like
Okay.
being like just random like things that a normal person wouldn't say, but like maybe a monster would.
A
And it
normal
just
person wouldn't
slowly
say.
delves into weird territory.
I like the idea of the code phrases to figure out who are monsters, and maybe there's just some sort of way to tell. Maybe there's a symbol, a ring, a pin, something like that. And Vod makes a good point about like peripheral being like, I didn't see you at blah blah blah, like suggesting that the monster community maybe is a quite small one, and that all of them will at least know of each other or have crossed paths at some point, or like they're not necessarily friends, they don't necessarily know each other very well, but they, like, if we're going to establish, like, if we're walking to the situation where they're already talking as though they know each other, or if it's one of those, oh, hey, you're a monster too kind of thing, it might be less awkward to have them sort of already be aware of each other. And we don't necessarily
Hmm.
have to establish why that is, either because they've met each other before or because of some sort of symbol or something like that. We could have little tells be things like you said, the things that humans wouldn't say. One of them could be like, oh, you need to kind of tuck your horn back a little bit there, it's showing, kind of thing, like stuff like
It's a
that.
bit on the nose.
It is, but it's for an audio, you have to put a few things out there that are clear enough for people to see. Like, I don't spoon feed my audience, but I also don't want to make them sit there and go, wait, what's happening? Oh my god.
Yay, money!
Drinking
I
buddy,
like
thank
money.
you. That's what the hell. Thank you so
And what's my
much.
pay for this drink, by the way?
You get paid a flat rate. You always
That's
get
a
paid the
scam.
same flat rate. What's my pay for this stream? Shut up. Also, now Lupus will expect
I'm
to get paid next
bringing in
week.
viewers. I'm being an entertainer.
You are so entertaining. Always.
I am. I am. Thank you very much.
You should
I
probably
know,
stream
but
again
it's
yourself
nice for
soon.
other people to say it sometimes.
Thank you so much, Drinking Buddy. That was really sweet of you. I have no idea why, but thank you. This is, yeah, it's not the stream I would have expected support, but are we not entertained? That is an excellent question. I don't actually know. All right, so let's talk about this. So they each know the other is a monster. Maybe I think if it's public transit, they will have seen each other before. It's only the second stream you've
I
ever been
mean,
to?
potentially, it depends. Like, it could easily be like what's prompting the discussion
Sandwich, thank
of
you for the
like
resub.
life. Like, suppose prompting the discussion of life could easily be something like the monster's habitats being displaced or something. So there's like an influx of new monsters in the city.
New monster? Oh, I see. So, like, they're moving into the city to get away from the development, the human development. Okay.
Yeah, like the
So,
deforestation or something. Like there's a lot of ways that it could be new people in public transit. Like,
okay. So, well, I would think at least one of them would be. So either we do this where it's one of those things where they see each other every day, like morning Bob, morning Tom kind of thing. Like they just see each other every day on the way to work. Or maybe one of them has been doing this forever and the other one is new to town. And it's like, hey, you're new here. Have you ridden the train before? Choo Choo Man, thank you for the bits. And then, like, a little bit of it could be in that way more expositional. You know, the veteran monster could be teaching the newbie, like, a few tricks about living in the city and, like, oh, you're new here, welcome to town. Are you here because of that incident that happened with the forest? Yeah, I heard about that. Okay, well, now that you're here, here's how we do things in town, kind of thing. And if you need anything, here's my number, kind of thing. So, I mean, that would be a better way to flesh out the background, because it's kind of a cheap trick, but it works really well in a lot of stories. You can do a lot of comfortable exposition dumping if one character doesn't know what the fuck is going on.
yeah,
So that way you can have the other character explain things and also explain
they
them to the
can.
audience. Yeah. So I think, maybe the veteran does the tuck your horns back in thing to the newbie, and that gives an in to, yeah. Okay. Each of the other is a monster. Let's say, let's do that. One is veteran. One is a newbie. To the city. All right. Okay, so if we're gonna do this in a dialogue setting, if we're gonna do this like an audio, this is entirely dialogue based. So everything we do has to be conveyed
Yay.
through a one-sided dialogue.
This isn't annoying at all.
You know you're gonna have to do this now. I want to hear it. Yeah, I kind of figured I was in for that. So.
Well, how much can I make you say? That's the question.
Whatever. All right, so here we go. So we're gonna open with maybe train platform sounds. That is my sound note to myself. When I go to record this, I will be able to soundscape this properly. All right. So when I do scripts, actually I need to, there we go. When I do scripts, I literally just type out my line of dialogue and then bracket pauses in between. That's it. It's not fancy. It's not like a Hollywood script style. I don't center everything. I find that really fucking weird. So, no worries, Vod. Do what you gotta do. Totally fine. Also, damn, level 5 hype train. Thank you guys so much. That's amazing. And big. I appreciate it. All right, so if we are opening with the icebreaker, that the meet cute is going to be my character, I suppose, is the veteran because I do all the talking. And the listener is the newbie, the new monster to town. So are we going to open with the metaphorical tuck your horns back in thing as being the in for how these two meet? Does that sound like... Oh, Vod! What the hell, man?
Dang.
Jeez, I thought you had to go do a house
thing. So now you
thing.
have to do the audio for realsies.
Now I have to do the audio for realsies. We'll see. We'll see how this shakes out. We'll see how this audio shakes out. I may or may not do this for
All right, I have a plan. Don't worry.
Okay. Well. All right. So, train platform sounds. Sandwich, thank you for the
Hype
biddies.
train?
Thank you for the biddies.
Hype train go higher than level 5 now? I haven't been on Twitch in so long.
Oh yeah, hype trains go infinite now. I think the highest one I had was like a level 21 or something. They just do not stop now.
That seems feasible to break.
they don't. Hype trains just go. They just fucking go.
Chugga chugga choo choo.
Alright.
Hype train platform, it's all connected.
Maybe a basic may I sit next to you? The may I sit next to you would work after we establish that they're monsters. We have to open with that, otherwise we don't know who we're dealing with here. And them being monsters is like the key thing. So I'm thinking, when I think monsters, I'm thinking like glamoured demons, you know, things like that, things that can pass as human with a few tweaks. You know, like I'm not thinking full on like centaurs walking through and like having to look human-ish like that, no. But we do need to establish who we're dealing with as early as possible.
Like the lizard people in politics, like that kind of monster.
Like, yeah, as long as they're wearing human skin, everything's fine.
Of course. So, like my best friend.
So we're talking about...
Jeffrey Bezos.
Are we sticking with the idea that these monsters are moving to the city because their habitat is being destroyed? Or do we just want them moving to the city because they like it there? Or... No worries, Halo. What do you guys think, chat? Do you think they should be moving to the city because, like, it is a mass influx of new monsters in the city because their habitat is being destroyed, or because of some other reason? It's kind of up to you. The habitat destruction thing, obviously that's a clean angle. We could definitely do that. It would add that little touch of stop destroying the earth, you morons, to anybody who's listening. But we don't have to go that heavy-handed either. It could be any reason. It could just be newbie monster moving to town to make his way in the world and seek fortune. Or maybe he got his ass kicked by some adventurer and he's like, fuck this, I'm moving to town.
Well, if we're supposed to be having the monsters like be hidden from society, I don't think we'd be in the world of adventurers, right?
Well, it depends. I mean, in the wild, are they monsters? And then they move to town in disguise, or are they always in disguise? Is their existence, are they disguised because they're worried about being hunted? Are they disguised because people would freak out otherwise? Like, what's their motivation? Do they always exist in disguise? Are they always trying to hide themselves from people? Is it like a Muggle situation where they're just like living in parallel with people and trying to look normal when they're around people? Or
I mean, how it usually works, which is pretty clean, tends to be like, oh, like the ancient myths and like folk tales and whatnot are like all true to some extent. And now, because of like modern society and advancements there, they are like forced to go into hiding in some capacity. So they're like hiding in the places where people can't go, but now people are going there. So they're like, welp, what now? So they're just like slowly being forced to integrate
so
and
humans are not
whatnot.
aware that they're there, but they are obviously way aware of humans and losing their habitat, so they're just sort of gradually integrating with human society out of necessity. But the humans don't know monsters are a thing.
Yeah, that's how it like
Okay.
went in my head at least.
Okay, so we can definitely go with habitat disruption. I like that. So newbie is here because habitat disruption. All right. So first line is my character getting the attention of the listener. Like, look over here, or psst, or hey, or whatever. To tell them to fix their disguise somehow. Now, are these disguises like glamours, like magical disguises, or are they literally just covering up the bits of themselves that look monstery to try and look more human, like makeup, prosthetics, you know, that kind of thing, putting on a disguise in the morning? Do we want this to be a high magic environment where they can literally glamour themselves? Hey, thank you for the follow. And thank you guys for the hype train. Hype train success. Thank you so much. I'm super sweet of you guys. All right, so we talking high magic, or are we talking just like prosthetics and stuff like that? They're wearing the same disguise? Ah, they look the same? Interesting. That's one way to do it. So one of them needs to change. One of us is going to need to change. Like a pantomime? Prosthetics. Okay, so you guys don't want to go high magic. You want to keep magic to a minimum and have these be monsters who are just struggling to integrate into human society and look as normal as possible, but they don't have magic. They only have makeup and prosthetics and clothes and whatever else they can
And
kind of...
even with that, it could still be magic to some extent. Like it could just be like an oddly specific spell because we have to just if we do magic in any capacity, we'd have to create a magic system,
Yeah.
and it could be like the magic system is akin to like prosthetics or whatever, where it's like, oh, today I feel like transforming into a Todd, and there's like specific presets. Like you can manually change them,
Like
but they're lazy and they just do
character
presets.
design. Yes, your
Yeah, I'm gonna be
character
a
design's
Frank
great.
today. I'm feeling like a Frank.
You're feeling like a Frank
And
today.
Frank, and then Frank is just a like preset of like traits and like
Okay,
effects
but if they have
and
a
whatnot.
job, like they go to the same job every day, don't they have to look the same every day?
I mean, of course, and that's where you like, well, like I'm a Frank and I will stay a Frank. But
Ah.
like with the newbie monster who's coming in, he's just changing every day. He doesn't have anywhere to stay yet. Like he just felt like being a Frank, where the other guy's living the Frank life, you know?
Okay, so we're talking prosthetics, makeup, that kind of thing, but there's sort of like low magic presets that they can kind of put on, like clothes, and they can... you know what? You could probably also pay extra for a custom one, if you really wanted
You could.
to. If you were a well-off monster, you could pay extra, and yeah, exactly, sort of like that. They'd buy the same disguise talisman from the same merchant. They're using the same preset of the default glamours, of which there really need to be more because as there's more and more monsters moving to town. Yeah. So what do they do about this? Do they sit there together looking the same the whole time? Or
There can only be one. They fight to the death.
Yes, they fight to the death on the train platform. Okay.
As you do.
All right. So I like the idea of the same glamour. I don't know if I like it for the opening of this audio, only because I think we're just
Yeah.
introducing a lot of confusion to start. I think I'd rather have it be my character telling the listener's character to fix something about how they look, and then they could have a conversation about, maybe they could even have a side conversation about the day that everybody came to work looking like Frank. And wouldn't that be funny, kind of thing? And that was a rough day, and let's never do that, kind of thing. So make sure you get your own custom glamour as quickly as possible. And yeah, so that could make for a fun story, like story within the story. But I don't think them looking the same right out of the gate's going to help, because that will draw attention. People will notice if there are two Franks. And yeah, my character will be the veteran, the one who's been in town for a while, Vaude. The listener's going to be the newbie who just got to town. So we're talking right now about how they go about disguising themselves. We're kind of leaning into Wolf Among Us type glamours, only probably even lower magic than that. Just like glamours that work with prosthetics, makeup, like that sort of thing. And that there's only so many presets, like the base glamours, there's only so many of for like the cheapest ones.
Yeah, and we could like even do both more so as well. Like if a monster doesn't have a nose, for instance, because like they're an amphibian or whatever, then they need to get a prosthetic nose, and then on top of that put glamour to make it blend in and look human.
Yeah.
Like
that.
It's just a mix of like technology and magic in real world society.
But then on top of that, the good thing about that is that unlike in the Wolf Among Us universe, they wouldn't have to keep getting it redone. As far as I'm concerned, once you have the pieces, you can put it together every day of your life for all the hell I care, as long as the prosthetics don't fall apart. Like it's not like having to go back and get another glamour from another witch over and over and over again, which to me sounds scammy as hell. So yeah.
Yeah. Especially if it's like a long-standing society, like gotta have the building blocks for not getting caught.
Okay, so and last but not least, before we start writing, so my character is going to be on the train platform, sees the listener's character, sees them slightly out of glamour, corrects them, blah blah blah, starts a conversation. What is my character's name? Do you guys want it to be Ree, like I default to when I'm not thinking that hard about stuff, or would you like us to come up with a character name for this one?
Regional.
Regional. Yeah, it's sort of like a Men in Black meets Wolf Among Us, which is a strange combination to say out loud, but I guess it works. Let's go with it. So yeah, this is your chance to think of a name while I start the writing. So we can start with a little psst. All right. That is how we start, right there. That is how I write. Lines for me, and then a pause for me. You think I should come up with a name? Okay. All right. What kind of name do you think a monster transplant to the city who's just trying to live her best life among people, what kind of name would that have?
Do we want them to give their like a human name and have a separate monster name that comes up in conversation, or
not necessarily, because I mean, any more human names, like people don't really question if you have a weird ass name, they just think it's a cultural thing, or your parents were hippies or something. Like they don't really, it's fine unless it's something unpronounceable.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like imposter. It could be something weird.
And we can say that. We could be like, you can call me blah blah blah. My actual name is probably not something I should say out loud because it will break people's eardrums or something like that.
I mean, I think the best way to do that is to have like the naive baby monster person that the listener is to like say their monster name and be like, no, you can't do that. That doesn't work in human society. You have to pick a new name. Okay. Mine is what blah blah blah.
Okay, that's cool. All right, that's yeah. I like that idea. So, obviously we're not going to give the listener a name because that's whatever you guys want it to be in your head because you're the listeners. But my character does need a name. Olive. Hi, Alistair. Olive is interesting. Like Olive the other reindeer? Yvette, Clover, Blythe. I got told I look like a Blair once by some random girl
like
at camp.
Like the witch?
No. I hope not. She ran up to me and she grabbed my shoulders and she's like, Blair? And I said, no. And she goes, you look like a Blair. And I was like, what? And
See, that's whatever. Yeah, whenever I like mess up someone's name and it's like when I tap someone on the shoulder and it's the wrong person, I'm just gonna hard go in for it. I'm just gonna pretend like they're that person, and when they question me, I'm just gonna be like, "Oh, you look like a Blair," and then I'll leave and
I
never
mean,
elaborate.
she committed. She just like she clearly she thought she knew me, and then it was like, oh, you just look like a Blair. It's really weird. Yeah. All right. We got Olive. We've got Yvette. We've got Blair. Should we do a poll?
We
We could
could
set up
do
a
a poll.
Let's
Oh
do
my
a
god,
poll.
I
Let's have
love
Mod Rural
features.
set up a poll, and you guys in chat can vote for the name of my character in our shiny new Monsters on the Train platform
Right, what
audio
names do we
series.
want?
How many choices can we add?
As I mean, I think at least 5.
All right, let's do Olive in there. Let's do
What?
Yvette. Yvette.
Can still see chat.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's do Blair, because why not?
Blair.
But I think Blair without the E. I think that's how you're supposed to spell it. I think. I don't fucking know.
Blair.
Yeah, Blair.
Yeah, that's how I have it.
Do we want to add Corinne? Corinne. Actually, I know somebody named Corinne, so probably not. let's not do that. Maybe Clover. Clover was another suggestion. Glitter Clover.
I do like Glitter Clover for my favorite anime. Glitter Force Doki Doki.
She was a monster. Okay,
My
let's do
favorite
that.
part is in the opening where they just do the Glitter Force opening, but they just say Doki Doki as like the background singers. I mean, every point where they say Glitter Force, they just throw in Doki Doki for no reason. It's hysterically bad.
It's so you know.
Oh, true.
Alright, set the poll. Alright, guys, let's vote. Name character. Pick a name from this list that you like. In the meantime, I will get back to writing.
True.
Need to fix your... Okay, do they have a name? I don't want to call it a glamour. Do they have a name for their disguises? Like, is there a blanket, like, industry name for what they do? Fix your disguise, fix your look, fix your...
I mean, we could always make up a word, but that seems like too much information type deal.
Yeah. I mean, we're world building. We can world build however we want. Need to fix...
I mean, especially for an audio, don't want to discombobulate. I like 2 seconds in.
Discombobulate.
Yes.
Cover? Oh, that's a cool idea. We could call it their cover. You need to fix your cover.
That works.
Your, what is it, horns are showing maybe? Do we like horns? Horns are something that's clearly not human and also potentially harmless. Need to fix your cover. Your horns are showing a bit under your hair. Now, do we want the listener to be like, oh my god, are you a monster too? Or should they just already know that? Should they already be able to pick up on that?
I mean, I think it should be implied by them being your horns are showing just casually. Like, no one would say that unless they're a monster or somehow a human in the know.
Yeah, well, I mean, there would be humans in the know, let's face it. Like, and I'm okay with that.
I mean, of course.
Yeah.
Like, that's, like, you can't say there's not. That would be bad world building.
Horns are showing. I like horns because I'm thinking little stubby horns, like little nubs, little nub horns. I like little nub horns. Okay, so they have a panic moment. Yeah, calm down, fix it. Maybe it's good. So like relax. It's okay. Just fix it real quick. Here, let me. There we go. Here in place. No horns. You're good. So just like that. This is exactly how I write a script. I have the dialogue in my head, and I write the word pause every time the listener is talking. Easy.
Makes sense.
Easy peasy. Hey, Mirage, welcome. Okay. Huge antlers.
The
Thank you,
biggest.
Creative Cloud. Very cool. Damn it. All right.
The bigger the antlers, the higher they are in society.
The closer they are to God.
Exactly.
3 meters wide, like a wingspan of antlers. I love it. Okay. All right. So, did we come up with a name? Oh, the poll's almost over. How are we doing on the poll?
It was
Olive.
overwhelmingly Olive,
Olive is
but
still
then
winning.
Yvette is making a bit of a comeback.
All right, this is your chance, chat. Vote for the name you think my character should have in our
The
Shiny
difference of
Monster
one
series.
vote, your vote matters, unlike the US elections.
Stretch.
Got him.
Oh my god, hydrate. Yes. The ladies like huge antlers. Jojo, hello. We're writing stories today, Jojo. We're actively writing a script right now, live on stream. We are telling stories, and chat is coming up with the ideas. So right now, chat is voting on a name for my character. Our shiny new monster character. Monsters in disguise. Monsters in disguise.
My god. It's like a reference.
It is like a reference. All right. So, it's okay to fix it real quick. There we go. Hair in place. No horns. You're good. Take it easy. Nobody saw. And if they did, they probably wouldn't care. It's really fine. You must be new here. Yeah, all right. Now we've established the listener is new. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. They're unfamiliar with most of these things. Let me move my microphone a little bit. There we go.
And
All right.
the winner's Olive.
Olive is the
By
winner.
1 vote.
Can they have a tail? Tails are cool. Sure, but they have to tuck it into their clothes. I mean, I'm fine with tails. But everything, they're trying to pass as humans. This is monsters who have been driven, to recap, for anybody new. Monsters have been driven out of their natural habitat, and now they are trying to live among humans and look like humans and pass for humans, and they are in the city now. So we're doing our traditional combined fantasy with mundane monsters in the city. Also, thank you for the follow. And now that we're new, we can go and spat exposition. Exactly. The newbie is giving us an opening to give information and instructions without it being an incredibly stupid exposition dump that would make no sense in other contexts. So,
My favorite characters are the ones that just stand on the sidelines and just narrate what's happening. Those are my favorite. They're all so deep and intricate characters.
yeah, very, very helpful. NPCs, really. Maybe not 100% new, so they have some knowledge of the city and things they talk about. Hard for them to get used to it being all the time. Yeah, I mean, I don't want them to be completely unfamiliar with the city. That's a little too deer in the headlights. I agree that, like, they've got some... Obviously, they know how to use public transit, which for a lot of people who've never been to the city, that's one of the scariest things to do. Like, if you've never lived in a city and you go to a city for a first time and you try to use a subway or a train or even like a bus, it can be extremely daunting. So the fact that they're taking a train, that they're on the train platform, I think implies that they do have some idea of what they're doing, or they've at least been here before.
Sounds to me like a skill issue.
Blue, I like that. That's cool. I tell the tale of a searcher. I live in a city and subways are still daunting. Yeah, that's fair. I liked the subways in London. I had no trouble with those. I thought that was such a great system that they had set up. It doesn't necessarily make sense, but like I really like the London subway system. And I'm okay with DC. I can tolerate DC. It's fine. I've never tried to ride the subways in New York. I've always kind of chickened out and done like Ubers and stuff. But yeah. And here, actually, the trains are pretty nice. Here in Western Australia, they're not nearly like the system is not as big as in most other cities. Like it's kind of an American style system where the train goes a few places. It's pretty useful. If you live close enough to town, you can probably use it. But yeah. The underground is my favorite part of London. Yeah, I like the underground. I really do. Like, I enjoyed riding the train. Okay, so you've got, you need to fix your cover. Your horns are showing a bit under your hair. It's okay, just fix it real quick here. There we go, hair in place, no horns, you're good. Take it easy, nobody saw. And if they did, they probably wouldn't care. Actually, we can add a line here. This is the city. They see all kinds of weird things. If they even think to look directly at something, which happens less often than you think. Now we're sort of
Yes,
laying the
Olive
groundwork.
did win.
Olive did win. Yes. Okay. Cool. Yes, Olive won. You must be new here. All right. So now we get into the conversational stuff that I do the most. the most things.
Let's go.
All right. It's really fine. You must be new here. Not to worry. I was new here once too. My name is Olive. What's yours?
Are we having him introduce himself first?
Just wait. This is
or
where
her?
we're gonna. Yeah, this is
I
where we're
guess
gonna do it. Yeah, no, not that. You can't use your name from home here. Didn't anyone tell you that? You need to come up with a more human name. Something they can pronounce and won't blow their eardrums. That's a good one. That works. Nice to meet you. And then we don't have to actually say what it is because it's whatever you think as the listener.
Exactly.
So there we go. This is our meet cute.
No, I
They
think we
have
should
met.
repeat everything the listener says at like a question and then answer it.
I think
That
that's
sounds
the
like
worst
natural
idea ever.
dialogue. I think that's the worst idea ever.
Yeah.
But have you even heard of my ideas before? They're pretty cool.
Anyway, back to the story. Okay, so this is the foundation.
Back to the story? I agree.
This is the foundation
We should
of our
write the
script.
story.
We're not going to write the whole script here, but because we are now about an hour into the stream, I would like to also do some prose so that we can practice some of the stuff that came up in the last stream with the mechanics, the descriptions, the adverbs, and how to work dialogue into like a greater story as opposed to the dialogue being all there is. How busy is this public transit? As busy as I decide to soundscape it. Hey, thanks for the follow.
True.
Level of freak out listener. When I think of a city train platform at rush hour, it's pretty hoppin'. I'm thinking enough people around that they would be reasonably worried that somebody would see something.
I mean,
But they also
if it's
wouldn't-
like a subway, then
Yeah.
it'll be quite busy. But if it's like an overground train, then in like a relatively rural area going into the city, like deeper into the city, then it wouldn't be that busy.
I'm thinking in between, like somewhere in between,
Yeah.
like a fairly hoppin' city train platform, but not like packed to the gills, like not wall-to-wall people, just pretty hoppin', and enough so that like they would think that somebody would have an issue if they saw something, but also maybe they haven't been to the city enough times to realize that people in the city are very jaded. If you see somebody walking around with horns, your first guess is not going to be that person's an actual monster. Your first guess is going to be that person's cosplaying something, or they think they're super edgy and cool. They're in their horn phase. You know, some weird shit like
I too had a horn phase, as all kids do.
I mean, I feel like I should have one now that I've started to put this out there. I'm like, I think I'd like some horns, please.
I'm still in my cat ear phase at the moment.
I could make some Homestuck horns. That could be fun.
Oh my god, that just sent me back to the
I know.
2000s and I don't like it.
I know.
Why'd you do this to me?
Just the last time I made
Why'd you
horns.
remind me? Oh my, don't remind me.
Yep, I know. Okay. Anyway, we're
Oh my god, I love Carcat. He's like my spirit animal.
Okay, stop.
Okay, fine.
I play the trumpet. Does that count as a horn phase? Actually, didn't you play the baritone?
I did play the
Rural?
trumpet.
And the trumpet.
I played the
yeah.
trumpet, I played the euphonium, baritone. I played a lot of things.
So you had
Now
a
I just
horn
have my
phase.
slide whistle on my
You
desk
had a
for
horn
comedic
phase.
effect.
You
I
actually
did have a horn phase. You're so right.
Horn phase was a hell of a time. The antlers are expensive. Okay, but antlers aren't horns. You had an antler phase. That's different. You were like the edgy kid.
Wow,
Horns. I had
wow. Equating antlers to horns. Wow.
Damn.
So insensitive to my fellow horn boys.
My horn phase was like attaching a nub to my nose and calling myself a rhino. That'll be my horn phase. Because those count, right? Those are horns. Rhinos have horns.
Whatever helps you sleep at night.
All right, so we've got our meet cute. We've got our established universe. This is pretty much it. From here, I could build at least a couple of audios, possibly a whole series. This is it. This is all we need. This is literally it. You've got your characters established.
We did it.
You've got, newbies here because of habitat disruption. It's really that simple. Now, from here, the world building becomes as big or as small as we want it to be. If this is going to be a one-off audio, it doesn't have to be much. We can kind of touch on some things, we can hint at some things, but mostly the focus is always going to be the character interaction. And that's, again, the focus of most of my audios because, again, it's a one-sided dialogue. You can't do a lot of flowery descriptions and stuff in a one-sided dialogue because the implication is that both characters are standing in the same space looking at the same things, and you don't have to point at anything and go, look at that right there, because you are both seeing it, so it's not a place for descriptions. It's a place for character interaction, and the plot unfolds from there, which if you don't write this, if you're a writer but you've never written this style, I do recommend it. Just try it at least once or twice because it is a fun way to challenge yourself to tell a story in the narrowest way possible. You have so little to work with. So little.
I hate writing without a visual medium, and you don't even have descriptors.
Nope. Everything is in your head, and everything has to be suggested, implied, hinted at, referenced. It's a really interesting way to go, and sometimes it's frustrating as fuck because you have so little. I really want to be able to say this, but I can't because these characters would not say this, and it's just frustrating, hair-pulling frustrating. But at the same time, if you pull it off, it's fun. I love when I get comments on audios from somebody saying that they were able to follow along and their responses in their head matched what I was saying in the audio. I love shit like that because that means that I wrote it in the most intuitive way possible that people would just naturally respond to in the way that I wrote it. And that makes me really happy because that means that dialogue flowed exactly as planned. And I get that that's not always the case. Sometimes when I'm I say, how are you doing in an audio? And someone in the comments is I'm terrible. How are you? Oh, that's good. Haha. What? Okay, I get, it's not always going to be the same response.
Oh my God, you're so edgy. Yeah, silly you in the comments.
It's fine. But yeah, no, but it really is a challenging way to write. I strongly recommend doing it, not necessarily for any purpose, if you want to write for some VAs will happily take scripts. I don't accept script, solicitations or anything like that. I write all my own stuff, but a lot of people will. And if you want to practice this sort of thing, it's also a good way to learn pacing. Because dialogue is one of those things that when you write dialogue in a short story or whatever, it's easy to rush. Because as you're writing it, it's taking you a while to write it. So you feel like it's going to take somebody a while to read it, but it will not. It will not take them a while to read it. They will blaze right through it. And then the thing that took you 3 hours to write takes them 3 minutes to read. And you're well, shit. Now what? So teaching yourself to pace and tell a whole story entirely through dialogue hopefully will help slow you down a bit when it comes to writing dialogue in a story and teach you to not just dump information or not jump ahead of where they would naturally be in a conversation because they wouldn't be there yet. A lot of times that's the problem with dialogue and stories is people jump. They jump so hard into stuff that would not naturally have happened in that conversation. That's not how people talk. That's not how things would have unfolded. So, yeah. Galaxy is screaming at me. Hi, Galaxy. We're talking about storytelling and world building. We're writing on the fly, and it's a lot of fun, and we've started a new script. Just like that. All right.
Yes, I do love working. It's the most fun I've ever had.
Hi.
That's why I play Minecraft 12 hours a day.
I don't understand why Minecraft is... I love Minecraft, and I can't figure out why I like it so much. Okay, now, do we want to tell the same story in a prose format, or do we want to tell a different story in a prose format? That's up to you guys, chat. In fact, you know what? Make this a vote, Rural. Set a poll for me.
Oh boy.
Set a poll.
I love doing my job.
Are we going to tell the same story in prose or let's start a completely different story in prose, bearing in mind that we have to rebuild the universe if we're starting from scratch.
And we've got another hour yet. That's fine.
We do have another hour yet, that's true. Hey, Eliminator. Yeah.
There's absolutely no bias in this poll.
What do now? Same story, brand new content. Well, the biggest argument for doing same story is that you
Is it
guys will
just
be
easy?
able to. Well, no, it's not just easier. It's also you can compare. You can look at
Well,
how
yeah.
the same story would look as a prose, as a short story versus a dialogue, just a dialogue, and then how you can
By
add things.
easier, yeah, by easier I meant that's like you would be able to much more easily flow straight into it and like highlight the differences between the mediums rather than just trying to remake an entirely new story
Yeah,
and then
that's kind of what
having
I'm
to
getting
think
at.
of the prose as the like secondary.
Yeah. Yeah, we've talked last week, we went really hard into the mechanics of the writing, the adverbs, the punctuation, things like that, sentence structure. And this would be a chance to
One
show you
second, neck.
guys, this would be a chance to show you guys how that works in the context of a story of a universe that we have already crafted. We already have this story. It is there. And the little things that we still haven't figured out with this story yet are things like what happens to these characters at the end, which we don't necessarily have to have an answer for right now. I can write that later. But like, do we want this to be a meet cute where they end up together, like relationship wise? Do you want them to be friends? Do you want them to never see each other again? And it's just a one off, like they meet on this train platform, like ships passing in the night, and then they just never cross paths again, which is kind of unlikely if they've hit the same train every day. They will probably see each other.
I've got a proposal.
Okay.
So, while doing this whole shtick, it's actually where the listener is like experienced and is pretending and is actually an assassin and pushes the person in the front of the train. And then get this, the next audio, they get reincarnated into another world with their smartphone, right? And it's really cool, right?
Okay, I know you have a thing for isekais. No. Train Kun is not going to play a role in this story. We're not going to assassinate any characters.
Okay, fine. Instead of a train, we could say that there's a like working truck on the tracks for some reason, and that's what kills it.
Killed by truck Kun on a train track. That would be Final Destination shit right there. And no, we're not doing that. No, we're gonna keep this. This is fine. This is simple enough. This is good. So yeah, chat, definitely vote on whether we should keep telling the same story in a different format and see what the differences are between the formats, or if you'd like to craft something entirely new. Same story to see how it varies. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm leaning towards, but I want to make sure that this is chat's adventure. I want you guys to have a hand in how we tell this story and where we go with it. And again, we're not going to tell the entire story here because ain't nobody got time for that. But we are going to work on the crafting of it. And again, caveat, as always, this is my opinion, my perspective, my stream. Writers will write in a million different ways, in a million different styles. I don't write like Stephen King, for example. I like his writing sometimes, but his style is extremely distinct, and I don't write like that. I don't write like Charles Dickens. He was paid by the word. Like, everybody's got a different style. So if my style is not your style, more power to you. Do whatever works for you. I'm more concerned with mechanics, things that will be sort of universal across styles, like using punctuation properly and things like that, that will keep your writing from seeming, for lack of a better word, ignorant and amateurish. Because if an editor reads it, you don't want them to go, oh god, this person doesn't even know how to use a comma. Like, why on earth should I give it a second look? So you always want to tell your story in the best possible light. You always want to make sure that what people are looking at is the story and not the punctuation and word choice. If you do that stuff right, nobody knows you've done anything at all, kind of thing. Or what's the line from, was it Coco Chanel? If you dress shabby, people notice the dress. If you dress impeccably, people notice the woman. Like, that's what you want people to do. You don't want it to be shabby and distracting. You want people to focus on what matters, which is your story.
All right, but what if you're feeling like really gross that day and you want them to like not notice your face? So you dress up in a garbage bag to bring the attention off of your like ID features.
I mean, distraction is a tactic. Let's face it.
Exactly.
Oh, look, a decoy. Also,
so true.
Stop giving VOD ideas, please.
What's wrong? Do you not want to do more isekai?
I've done so much isekai. God damn.
You have not done enough isekai.
I'm not serious.
Just this like season alone, there's like 8 of them. If you've not done 8 in 1 month, that's not enough.
I only do 8 audios in a month full stop. They can't all be isekais.
Yeah, they should all be isekais.
All right, same
It's
story.
creative differences, SMH.
69%. Okay, so we're going to tell the same story from a prose perspective. Here we go. Okay. All right. Now, the question is, do you want first person or third person narration in this chat? And as a reminder, first person means that I'm telling the story like I saw this person standing across the way, blah, blah, blah. Third person is so-and-so saw this person standing across the way, blah, blah, blah. Samuel! Oh my god, everybody look out. The wholesome loot is here.
That's Hi, wild.
Samuel. Thank you for the raid. Welcome, raiders. We are telling stories. This is my weekly storytelling and world building stream, and today we are actively writing. So far, we have started a script. A shiny new script about 2 monsters in disguise riding a train platform to work. So that is where we are.
Getting stage fright. My social anxiety can't handle this.
You're fine. And with me is Rural Specter, one of my mods and also an incredibly creative writer in his own right, and we are leading the chat in crafting this story. So yes, so far the story we have is, for the script purposes, my character is a monster and the listener's character is a monster. My character has been living in the city for a while. The listener's character has just moved to the city because of habitat destruction. And we are both in disguise as humans, waiting for a train to go to work. And we have a mute cute where I help the listener correct their disguise a little bit, and we talk about what it's like to live in the city as monsters and just try to blend in and have a life. That is where we're going with it. So that is that, and that will probably be.
You forgot to mention the eat part.
Yeah, well, whatever. Chat came up with the story, chat named the character, and now in the future I'm going to probably have to write and perform this, so that'll be fun. Now we're going to tell the same story. We're going to tell the exact same story from a prose perspective, because I know most of you guys do not write scripts. Most of you guys are writers who tell short stories, write novels, poetry, things like that. We're not going to get into the poetry today, although I do love poetry. We'll probably do that another time. But today we are going to focus on this particular story in prose. Do you want to do a poll on first versus third person? You guys want that? Can you make like a short poll, Rural, like a 30-second poll on that?
I suppose.
Yeah, let's do a 30-second poll on whether we want to tell this in a first versus third person narration. And that's really a personal preference thing. I tend to go towards third person omniscient because I like being the kind of narrator that has sight. I like to be able to see things the characters don't. The limits of first person narration are you can only really see through the eyes of one character. So if that character doesn't know something, neither do you.
What about second person?
Second person is I don't like. Honestly, that's how my audios are, basically.
I mean, essentially, they're all used.
They're all used. Yep. Second person narration. Not very popular for prose, though. Hydrate. Thank you.
Yeah, I think audios in like some games is about it.
Yeah.
Like,
follow. Yeah, game narration is very frequently second person because it's leading the listener down a path, but most of the time you're not going to get a lot of second person in prose. Posture check. Ooh, my back actually popped a little bit. Thank you for that. Okay, so first or third person perspective, vote real quick, last chance. Ooh, heavy into third person. People like the omniscience.
I'll vote for first person.
You don't get to vote.
I'll let it go down alone. Yes, I do.
You do? Damn.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be allowed
I make the poll. I could charge every vote to cost like 10,000 Ricolas.
Yeah, but
and just have a monopoly. I mean, I could.
All right. Well, we've got third person. So the next question is, do we open with dialogue or do we open with a description of the setting? Again, that is a personal preference thing. I like to open with a hook of some type. I want to grab the listener. If the listener or the reader. If the reader's not grabbed in the first, couple of lines, they're probably not going to stick around. People have short attention spans.
TikTok these days. Filthy millennials, Gen
I was
Zers.
gonna say it's not the millennials, it's the Gen Zers. All right.
Yeah, Gen Zers TikTok.
So we've got our dialogue, which started with this. Maybe that's how we open our story.
I mean, if it's a third person omniscient, I feel like it'd be weird to do like the psst starting.
Why?
If it's third person. I don't know. It's just like, because we haven't really established much.
You don't have to.
Like, they're at a train
station.
state. I mean, yeah, but like they're at a train station and all that, and I feels like jumping back and forth between like the tongue-in-cheek dialogue and then, oh, by the way, train sounds
No,
are happening.
We're not going to use all the tongue-in-cheek dialogue. This is the hook. It's not. I'm not going to copy and paste all of the dialogue directly into the prose because that will not work. And that will, I mean, it would work to this point because we haven't gotten really deep into it yet. But past this point, we would need this dialogue is useful for exposition because it is an audio, and we need this description. In prose, we don't need.
Of course.
That. So.
But for this, like, it almost feels like that dialogue is a good hook for a first person, more so.
Not necessarily. We can. Here, I'll show you. All right, so. Now we're gonna have to start describing these characters, you guys. Like now, we have to establish what these people look like. It's no longer in the mind of the listener. These people have descriptions now. So, what are we thinking?
I think Olive should have a color of skin that's somewhere close to, I don't know, olive.
You think it should be on that on the nose? Olive skinned?
I mean, when I think of an olive, I think of an olive.
I mean, okay. What does the listener look like? She green? No,
exactly, she's green. She's green. I think she's green.
Maybe
she has green hair.
You know what? How about
actually, she has red hair.
Like a pimento.
Like the top of a green olive.
Yeah, like a pimento. No, I'm thinking this. I'm thinking she's got olive skin because that is a skin tone. But maybe when she's a monster, when she's in monster form, she also has green skin. So it was kind of a no-brainer for her to be like, well, I guess I'm an olive. And that could be like
olives in disguise.
Olives in disguise. Antler. Alistair, what is your sudden fascination with antlers? Go eat a quokka or something. Okay.
Eating a quokka? Why?
All right. What does the listener look like? This is where we're going to introduce the listener, right here. I want to describe this person looking around. I'm assuming we're going to go mask on this. We're going to go like stereotypical male, only because like 95% of my audience is male, so we're gonna do that. But in this case, it doesn't matter as much because we don't have an audience insert character as much. And in prose, it could be either. The audience insert could also be Olive. So depending on who you identify with, who the pro tag is, that's cool. Tiny baby antlers, like a foal's first antler, like a little stump, little fuzzy stumps. Okay, so let's describe our boy, Fuzz Stump. So we've got the hook. Let's see. How are we describing? Is he tall? I don't want to say the fuzz stumped guy. Like that's not
true.
We're gonna say
you have to work fuzz stuff into it. It's a requirement now. Either in the official audio or in this.
Yeah, so right now we've got a young man in an ill-fitting suit. Because I'm picturing somebody who's like
okay.
Never had to live in the city, is trying his best. Doesn't know how to buy a suit, because again, that is something that somebody from the country wouldn't know how to do. It's off the rack secrets.
Right. So take what you have right now, add a comma, and then say his fuzz stump barely peering through his messy hair.
His fuzz stump. No.
Why not?
The young man in the ill-fitting suit, his eyes wide. Now, we can describe his eyes here if we want, but we also don't want to go too heavy on description right out of the gate. So he just heard somebody say, psst, hey. So he's swinging his head around. Do we want him to be panicked, curious, confused? Some combination of all three?
I feel like in how it looks to me, is like on edge. Like he doesn't know what's happening. It's like fight or flight because he did come from the wilderness-esque.
Confused and curious. Okay. Wait, not swung. Swung would be like more of a whole body movement. Turned.
Jerked.
Yeah, jerked. Let's go with jerked. I was trying to avoid like a more marionette vibe because jerked to me sounds like someone's literally pulling strings. But in this case,
Yeah.
if he's shocked, if he's confused, if he's startled is a good word. Jerked.
Discombobulated.
I'm not gonna use discombobulated.
All right. What about
Has
defenestration?
Wow. Jesus Christ. Okay.
What about anti-establishment dysenterianism?
What about pneumano-ultramicroscopic silicovolcaniconiosis?
That's a word.
It is.
I don't think it really fits here. You're being unprofessional.
Jerk to the left. Okay, so we're going to establish this person's to the left. Well, not his whole body. Jerked his head to the left.
When does this fuzz stump come in?
That's what we'll be hiding the fuzz. You guys want the fuzz stump that badly? You want the fuzz stump? Is that what you want?
Yeah, this is no longer a Monster Friend audio. This is a fuzz stump audio. Or the listener.
Gavin?
So, hey, remember that one quirky anime we were watching where it was like the perspective of like an inanimate object and like while the characters worked around them? What if the listener's a fuzz stump?
Nope, I hate it. That was always an inorganic object. Well, except for the time it was a chicken. So
yeah, and then fried chicken because that's not horrifying to think about at all.
I hated that anime. Let's move on. Okay.
It was so good.
Fuzzy lad. Young man in ill-fitting suit. So we've got a wide-eyed young man in an ill-fitting suit. So already we've got this picture of a guy who's not comfortable where he is or in his own skin. Okay. Let's say nothing is there. Let's say he looks to the left and nothing is there. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Semicolon. Train platform was...
God, you're so good at writing. You used a semicolon.
I like semicolons.
Oh my God.
Rush hour. Commuters. Regular people going about their regular days in the most regular way possible. I like doing things in threes. Threes are satisfying. The rule of three applies to writing just like it does to photography. He looks down
And comedy and every other thing.
It's Olive. The Olive.
Oh my
A
God.
talking olive. Oh my God. What are you doing here? Alright. Now he's got his attention again. Now he's jumping. And he's startled. Alright, we're getting a picture of this guy. He's a little edgy, he's a little on edge, he's a little tense. He's clearly not comfortable. Like the minute he hears something, he swings his head around like, what the fuck? What was that? Which gives us the impression that he is definitely like, he's not just chill. He's not chill on this train platform. Hey, thank you for the follow.
I mean, I would be chill if I had a fuzz stump.
We'll get to the fuzz stump. If you guys are so in love with him having little stumpy fuzzy antlers, we will get to that. I swear to God. And I'm not calling this fuzz stump. That's not the name of the story.
Okay.
Let's see. This time he sees my character. He sees Olive. This time. How close is she, guys? Is she right next to him and he just missed her because he's stupid? Or is she approaching? Is she approach him? She's walking
I
close.
mean, with the pssst sound, I feel like she has to be rather close.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like she could be like diagonally behind him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's he just like glanced over like awkwardly, it didn't see anyone, and then she just said hey again.
Hey again.
And he got spooked.
He's out of sorts. He looked the wrong way. Approaching. And Olive talks to Fuzz Stump. Jesus Christ. Okay. This time he felt...
Like it needs to be a monster name. Like instead of like it could be Phuz for Fuzz. Make it mysterious and fantastical.
Felt someone at his right shoulder. So this time he picks up on where she is. And he... Does he step back? Is he startled enough to step back away from her? Do we think? Took an involuntary step backward. He does a little jump, but stands still. Why would that be flagged? Fuck off. On his right shoulder? Really?
Let's go.
I could be your angle.
I mean, it is an olive. It is an olive. They're not that big.
An olive on his shoulder. Hello. I'm here to tell you that your fuzz stumps are showing.
Exactly. This is so much of a better story than what we had before.
And
I
again,
like to think of it as like an olive with like angel wings. Like, you know those like angels with like their big like swords or whatever, like in whatever fantasy stuff? Like, but instead, it's like a toothpick. And they just poke you with it repeatedly in the neck.
It's
I
like
mean,
Ratatouille, but with an angry
it's not really
martini.
it's not really a garden. It's just a single olive.
Okay. Again, I'm not trying to pass this off as good prose by any stretch. We're just talking about things like punctuation, sentence structure, things like that. This is not a good story at this point. At all. Just
How
stay
can
with
it
me
not be a
here.
good story if there's a talking olive?
Okay, do we want to describe her here or jump right back into the dialogue?
You decide in the
I'm
comments
thinking.
down
I'm trying to
below.
decide how fight or flight this kid needs to be at this point. Like, maybe she could put a hand on his shoulder.
I mean, she's already on his shoulder. Like,
She's not on his shoulder.
maybe he could put his own hand on his shoulder, like slapping a fly, and then she just like catches it because she's a very strong. Olives are naturally strong, as you know.
Fod, to answer your question about his eye color, I don't, and I'll tell you why. We have so many descriptors already here. The young man in the ill-fitting suit. For me, piling on the descriptors in the very first sentence is, I hate to use this phrase, but kind of middle schoolish. I feel like it's a dump. It's not in a bad way. I just feel like it's one of those things people do when they want to get as many descriptors out as possible, but it tends to be a little bit of an overload. This is something we can trickle in. At this point, all we need to know about this guy is that he's really nervous and he doesn't know how to dress himself. We can get to things like his features gradually. And I'm one of those people that, like, when I read prose that talks about eye color and stuff, like 9 times out of 10, I hate how it is handled. I hate it because it always feels kind of shoehorned in, or just sort of like, I'll be perfectly honest, half the time I don't think it's necessary. Like, unless the person's eye color matters, why can't that just be something that the audience fills in? You know, like, why can't it be something you imagine? And maybe that's just the audio writer part of my brain, but like,
That's why we need to work in a visual medium. So you just need to learn animation. and then everything will be so much easier. You could be like the YouTube equivalent of those really creepy, like first person perspective, like animated, like meeting things that are like supposed to be like really fun or like wish fulfillment. Like there's this cool one I found called Pillow Talk, and it's just a bunch of really
Stop
creepy
talking.
anime
Stop
guys
talking.
like just
Stop
talking you to
talking.
sleep, and it's
Yeah.
awful.
I'm definitely going to describe Olive because right at this moment, the audience insert is our young man. This is who you're supposed to be identifying with. He's looking around and he's going to see her and get that description out. You're seeing through his eyes at the moment. That will change, obviously, because it's third person. But yeah, we will absolutely get to that. So, oh yeah, no worries. And again, this is all my style. Some people can handle that early description stuff really well and it flows nicely and stuff. I guess it's just because the things that I read don't handle it as well. Maybe I'm picking the wrong books or something, but like even some of my favorite writers, and don't get me wrong, some people that are incredibly popular published writers couldn't find a coherent sentence with, two hands and a map. Like it's the weirdest damn thing sometimes what makes it as writing. But it's a style thing. To each their own. Whatever makes you happy, whatever flows with you, do that, please, for the love of God. Just do that. As long as it makes sense, as long as it follows the basic rules of English. And again, get feedback from people, guys, as you read, as you write, as you do anything. Like, check in with other people. Like, does this sound good? Do you agree with me on this? Blah, 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 blah. I put an image of Olive in the clearing to help you describe her. Did you now?
It is so kind of you.
Let's check the Discord together.
Yeah, that seems about right.
Let's check the Discord. Psst,
I see no issue
Olive.
with this picture.
Wow. Okay. Sure.
See, now I'm just trying to think about like the world building around this olive, right? Like, is the red the mouth, or is that the top of the head? Are they looking straight down?
We only have like
Or
half
is
an
the
hour
red an
left.
eye?
Let's write story now. Stop talking and let's
I
write
need to
story.
know how the
Resolve it in your own head.
organs of the olive works.
It's like the
I
oval
can't resolve it in my own head.
Yes, you can. It's like the oval on the diglet. Is it a nose or is it a mouth? Who cares? It's up to you.
It's a nose. That's shown in the anime. We have an answer to that.
Behold my artistic skill. That's very solid. Well done. Well done, you. Okay.
Okay, next thing you give me an anatomy chart of the olive. I need help.
Yeah, you and Alistair can work out yourselves how the olive functions. I just, whatever. I'm busy. I'm telling a story. So. All right.
Be an all-in-one sensory organ, like some of the fish at the bottom of the sea. You're so right, me.
So let's say a warm hand touched his forearm and his... I hate going back to eyes so quickly. I'm also not a fan of using the same terminology too frequently.
Oh God, yeah.
It stands out, it's glaring, it's painful. And his nervous gaze, let's say. Now, what does Olive look like? Brown eyes with her olive skin? Are we thinking brown eyes? I feel like brown eyes are like the warmest and most welcoming eyes.
Have you considered green, like an olive? Maybe her pupils are red, right? So like it's green and then a little red dot in the middle.
Hazel eyes. She doesn't have red pupils. Unless if you shine a light in someone's eyes, they are red. So there you go.
True.
You've got your olive.
We found the olive. Olive.
Now
It's
you
like
can
I
stop.
Spy
Now you
for
can stop.
adults.
Glanced down, then up to a woman's face. She had brown eyes and a small smile on her face. Ooh, you used face 2 sentences in a row, man. Ouch.
True.
Also, where else would her smile be? This is a legitimate question. This is a brevity question.
I mean,
When you
whenever
say
I do
someone
hand
has
puppets, I have like a smile on my thumb and
Stop
then I make
talking.
it talk.
When you say someone has a smile on their face, Where else would it be? Yeah. And I don't mean to be a hard ass, I really don't. But these are things that I nitpick to shit. It could be anywhere. It really couldn't. It really couldn't. It's a smile.
Are you sure?
Now, smiles, of course, have a lot of personality. You can have a sly smile, a slow smile, a childlike smile, a broad smile, a wide smile, a giggling smile. But they're always going to be in the same place. Vod, I swear to God, if you didn't separate a lot on purpose, I will murder you. I will find my way to the Pacific Northwest and I will stab you with a pitchfork.
Don't you mean the specific Northwest?
Oh my God, just kill me. Hi, zombie bear.
You make it too easy for me.
We're forming a pitchfork mob to go after Vod for saying a lot as one word. Oh, and Halo's leading the charge. Here we go. You've pissed off an editor now. No! Oh, Vod.
See, that one was on purpose.
Yeah, that one was for sure on purpose. I love all the callbacks to the stuff we talked about last week, but oh my God, it hurts. Bad with punctuation, I'm fearing for my safety. You used it properly there. You used a comma, joining two independent clauses with a conjunction. I'm okay with those ellipses, that's fine. Yeah, well done, Sandwich. Clean sentence. You even have nice parallelism there. I am this and I am this. I appreciate it.
And the figurative language too.
I like it. Okay, let's at least finish a couple paragraphs of this. Okay, his gaze is gonna flick. I like flicking for gaze. It's jumpy. It's good for meth addicts and nervous people. Not that I write a lot of meth addicts, but you know, if you were to write a meth addict.
Who doesn't write meth addicts?
Now we can have some fun with adverbs. I like adverbs.
Let's go.
Jesse Pinkman.
You add a verb.
Exactly. Flicked, bitch. Science. Jesse Pinkman has a lot to say. I like to think Jesse got clean, you know, and went on to live a really nice, good life. I hope so, anyway. I don't think that's a spoiler. That show's pretty old now. Okay. Flicked to the warm brown one of the woman standing next to him. So now we've tied his gaze to hers. Why? Why do you have a problem with... How many women do you think are standing here? Okay.
All of them.
Google picks the weirdest things to pitch a fit about. All right.
Google knows that any story with a male main character needs to be a harem, like all the best isekai.
All right, so his nervous gaze flicked to a warm brown one. So we've got her eye color and also the warmth in one little phrase. And it's again with the parallel thing. It's his gaze to her gaze. It's connection that flows for me again. There's Amelia Earhart there. She's on an island somewhere, living her best life. Well, not anymore, but
Yeah.
your cover is slipping. You need to hide your horns better.
Fuzz stump.
We're getting to the fuzz stump. I'm going to describe it as a fuzz stump.
That is the perfect opportunity to say fuzz stump.
No, we're getting to that. He's gonna correct her. Just watch. She murmured. So now you know it's a low voice. It's not just said, it's murmured. Again with the word choice. Pick words that paint a picture. And that way you don't have to spend forever describing something. Instead of like she said in a quiet voice, you can just say murmured, and you've got your quiet voice. Fuzz stumps. She murmured, her smile steady. She's maintaining a very steady, like, she's the picture of calm right now. So she's just steady smiling, like, your cover is slipping. Hide your horns better. Antlers. So now he's correcting her. Antlers. Quick question, go for it. There you go. Fuzz stumps.
Fuzz stumps. Fuzz stumps. See, now in the main audio, you need to have your character say fuzz stumps for all of your YouTube audience to see.
Fuzz stumps. No, her smile is steady as in while she is talking. It doesn't matter if she's... Actually, I accidentally used warm twice because I put way too much time into that sentence, so I lost track.
Wow.
What I'm implying with this is that while she is talking, while she is murmuring this, she is steadily smiling the whole time. It's just, your cover is slipping. You need to hide your horns better. That sentence, and the implication is that's a very slow, calm, steadying moment for him. Like, calm your tits, buddy. You just need to do a little better. Steady. Doesn't necessarily mean she was smiling before, but she's smiling for that sentence. And again, I'm not one of those people that feels like everything necessarily needs to be established and then carried through, like, for lack of a better word, spoon feeding. I feel like some things can be implied. Like if some nice lady is standing next to him with her hand on his arm and her eyes are warm, I feel like you could probably imply that she's at the very least not frowning. She's not mad. She's not, she's not grabbing him. She's being gentle. Like, hey buddy, you need to work on some stuff here. Just take it easy and work on some stuff here. So that's kind of in my head how it's playing out. But just for that sentence, I don't necessarily think she was even smiling before that. She may have just been sort of concerned, hand on the arm, but now it's like, hey, fella. So, yeah, that's in my head where it's going, or what that particular thing implies. And again, I know that I'm one voice of a million or more. I'm one style of many. I like to leave more to the imagination than not. I don't like to handhold readers where possible. I like a good turn of phrase. I like a good, fun description of stuff. Like, I like that as much as the next person. I love adverbs. I love fun little trippy ways to turn things on their head and paint a picture. But at the same time, when it comes to the people, I kind of like that to be organic. I like people to sort of be swept along with a scene and get some of it through the implication. Like, not everything needs to be spelled out for me. But again, that is just me. Good evening, what's being written? Right now we are writing a prose version of a script that we started. So, to recap, the characters that you guys came up with, 2 monsters who are disguised as humans. They are on a train platform in a town. They each know the other one is a monster. One has been living in the city for a long time. The other one is new to the city and still kind of finding their way. The newbie has moved to the city because the habitat for these monsters is being disrupted, so they're sort of fleeing to the city to hide among the people and get jobs and survive. And the meet cute is that my character, the veteran, sees that the listener's character's cover, which is like a glamour, or the way they hide what they really look like, is slipping a bit and their horns are showing. So in the script, my character helps the listener.
What are the horns?
The fuzz stumps.
There you go.
The little fuzzy stumps, like little baby antlers, because that's what chat likes. So we have a little conversation, fixing the hair to cover the little fuzz stumps, and then we have a conversation about what it's like to live in the city, and that will spiral into a whole ass audio. Now we're telling the same story, which I've named When You're Here, Your Family, because you guys wanted to name her Olive. We're telling the same story in a more prose format, talking about things like description, sentence structure, dialogue, and just practicing with like basic punctuation stuff. And again, it doesn't have to be like Oxford English, like prose. You can have some fun with it. Like regular people going about their regular days in the most regular way possible is kind of conversational. It's not incorrect, grammatically, but it's also kind of conversational. It's a style choice. You can make style choices in prose and still be within the boundaries of good writing and good mechanics. You can do that. You can play with that a little bit, as long as your style choices are not distractingly wrong. And you guys know what I mean by that. Like, misuse of apostrophes is distractingly wrong for someone like me, or for an editor who's going to read that and try to see if you're a good writer or not. Definitely nail your punctuation use, nail your basic sentence structure stuff, get that shit right, and then play within those boundaries. Al likes the fuzz stumps. All right, so we good? We clear? So there's your fuzz stumps, you guys. So they've had a little back and forth. Now your cover is slipping. You need to hide your horns better. Antlers, fuzz stumps. Okay. And just like that, she's helped him cover his little fuzz stumps so he's not freaking out. Now we can get to the part where she tells him, and we're not going to copy this dialogue directly. Take it easy. Nobody saw. Do you guys, I shouldn't even ask this. You want me to use fuzz stumps in the audio, don't you?
Of course.
I wasn't asking you.
I am the voice
I was
of chat.
asking my chat, because chat is the
They say, of
opinion I
course.
care about. Oh, okay. All right.
See, it's in chat.
There you go. It's officially canon now. Fuzz stumps. You're welcome.
And for, the people in the back, maybe do a little performance of how it would sound in the audio when you say fuzz stumps.
I just said fuzz stumps several times.
No, but like in the audio.
I would say it exactly the same. I would say fuzz stumps.
Like, immerse me. Let me see how
Immerse
the
you.
audio would flow, It's hard to really say if it's good or bad unless I hear it perform. Since it's an auditory
Fuzz
medium, I need to hear
stumps.
it. Like, but in context, like the leading up, build up to it, Like good world building.
So fuzz stumps. Like that. That's how it would sound. That's exactly how I would read it.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. You've
Or
had
do you
your
think,
fuzz
can you say
stumps.
fuzz stumps like 5 times fast?
No, I'm done with the fuzz stumps. We're going back to the prose.
Sad.
Okay. Keep an eye on that. He nodded. Let's see, he nodded. He's still nervous though. So how do we show nerves? We show things like sweat, twitchiness, darting eyes. Again, when you're talking about show, don't tell, you don't have to say he was nervous. You can say his eyes still darted back and forth at the other commuters, all presumably human. So now we're establishing that he is not, and neither is she. Well, probably she isn't. We don't know that for sure yet. all presumably human. So now we've mentioned horns, and everybody else is probably human. Fidgeting with their hands, yep. Fidgeting is another great way to show nerves. If you can describe things instead of just saying he was feeling this, then please do it. Trust your audience. They will know. They will pick up on everything you're throwing down. And you also don't have to do all of them. You don't have to do go Google the laundry list of how does somebody feel when they are nervous and then include all of those tells. He's got darting eyes as he's looking at the other people, so clearly he's nervous. Maybe a thin sheen of sweat glistened on his forehead. So now you know he's pretty fucking nervous. And these are things that you would be able to see. You can't always see a rapid heartbeat or increased breathing. But the other characters looking at this character would be able to see, oh yeah, he's freaking out. Nervous habits like hand on the neck. Yeah, exactly. Fidgeting, those are all basically fidgeting. Relax. Now, how loudly do you want her to say this? Is she still talking in a low voice? Is she still murmuring? Is she whispering? Is she slapping him upside the head and being like, chill the fuck out, buddy?
I think she should throw him onto the train tracks and then have him get hit by a truck can to get Isekai to into the world with his smartphone.
I think you've made that joke too many times. Stop.
Rules of threes. I've only made it once. Now twice.
Okay.
I still have one more in me.
Okay. So So now she's just in a normal voice. So maybe she said casually, or even just she said.
Through gritted teeth.
She's not through gritted teeth. Gritted teeth implies what, chat? If someone is speaking, not you. I want chat to respond. If you read somebody is speaking through gritted teeth, what does that imply to you? What picture are you getting? What is the mood? What is the vibe? What are they feeling? Give me gritted teeth. Frustration? Like when I talk to Rural? That's fair. What else? What else does gritted teeth tell you?
I mean, she's about to push him in front of a truck, so I feel like she should start getting frustrated to build up to that.
That was 3. You're done.
There we go. Okay. I am finished. See, I had to work it in somehow.
Gritted teeth is urgency, huh? Interesting. Impatience.
Pain.
Anger. Pain is a good one. People in pain will frequently grit their teeth. Yeah. All fairly negative things, honestly.
Exactly.
Gritted teeth. So, but you guys know what that means. If you read somebody has gritted teeth, you can tell from that and the context of the rest of what's going on what they are feeling. That's the beauty of being able to describe stuff. That's where prose gives you so much to work with. You can say damn near anything, and every word you choose is going to change up how this goes. So what if we said, she said laughingly? That paints a different picture than she said forcefully. She said through gritted teeth. It changes so much. Just that little description changes so much of the vibe of the entire scene. Her saying one word, how she says it changes everything. And that's not to put pressure on you when you guys write stuff. That's just to make it clear that you have incredible tools at your disposal to change the entire vibe on one word. That said, this is get back to a reference we made last week. Be careful with your word choice. Do not have a thesaurus tab open where you're constantly trying to use the most complicated words possible or the most, SAT words possible every single time, because boy, howdy, is that distracting.
Are you telling me that my English literature class was a waste of time?
English literature classes don't exactly prepare you to be good writers.
But I analyzed the color of the spectacles in the billboard of The Great Gatsby. That's writing.
So I actually like The Great Gatsby for the purposes of analysis. I think it's a fun one to
Yeah,
analyze
it is
because
good.
the symbolism is so heavy-handed, and it's also such a short book that you can really have some fun with it. That said, though, for writing purposes, like, so many people seem to think that the bigger the word, the better, or the more fancy words they can cram into a sentence, the better, and that just ends up being incredibly distracting. And be careful with that. It's okay to be repetitive on words like said and responded if you are trying to move something along and you're not dwelling on setting the scene through dialogue or setting the scene through, like, if people are having a long ass conversation, like some conversations in books will last page after page after page of dialogue, you can't make every line of that be a mood setter. You just cannot, which is fine. And not every line's even going to have an action associated with it. Sometimes it's just going to be the dialogue and then it moves on to the other person talking. That's totally fine. Like, don't try to brute force this shit. Try to make it flow. Every so often, throw in a descriptor, throw in an action, throw in something somebody's doing while they're talking. But if you're going a dialogue heavy story, you know, you can find a balance there, I guess. And a lot of that just takes practice. And once again, getting feedback from people you trust. Please have people read your shit. Find friends, God help you, a friend who's actually in the business, and have them read and then take their notes in the spirit that they are intended.
Have friends.
You can always find somebody to read your stuff. Like, even just a stranger on the internet could probably read your stuff. But the point is, when they give you notes, absolutely take those notes. Please. Take them and run with them. Like, they may or may not be right if they're style choice things, but most of the time people are not going to read your shit with an eye to make you worse. They're trying to make you better. They're trying to make you a stronger writer. They're sharing genuine observations as a reader of your stuff. So if they come back and say, I don't know what you're getting at here, or this sentence doesn't make sense to me, or what were you trying to say, or whatever, don't just be like, oh, well, they're just stupid. They didn't understand what I was getting at. Like, so much revision for the purposes of publication is clarifying things that, as an author, you will think is completely fucking obvious. And it's not. Because nobody's in your head but you. Presumably just you, and nobody else. So...
What about my symbiote?
That's a different story. A totally different audio series.
True. It's a reference.
You. I like that. Enormous sibling is observing you. That is, Big Brother is watching. 100%. And it means something totally different. It's not always a good moment for a thesaurus. Sometimes just be cool, you know? Don't.
I mean, you have to know how to use a thesaurus.
Mm-hmm. And that's just it too. Like, just because the word is bigger doesn't mean it's better. And if you don't speak a certain way, please don't try to write a certain way. Like, try to write how you speak to a point. Like, obviously, if you can't put two words together, then maybe learn to do that first. But try to be comfortable with your writing as you are comfortable with your talking. You know, you don't have to go sweeping high these and thous and all that shit. Like, you don't have to do that. Just talk like a person, and people will vibe with that. Like, people that read writing that was written comfortably, you can tell when you read something whether the writer was comfortable writing it, or if they were like trying too hard or shoehorning too much crap in. Like, that comes through. Like, you're the expert, you need to remember who your reader isn't. Exactly. See, Halo knows. Halo has the unfortunate calling of being an editor and having to read other people's crap on the regular and having to guide them and give them notes and explain to them what works and what doesn't. And it is not a calling I would choose for myself. It is a quick path to madness as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, I mean, as a writer, you have so much insight that the readers do not have. You have all of the insight. It's your world. It's your story. You know what's happening. And you also know how quickly you want to get to the good shit. Like, you really want to get to the good shit. You want to get to the action. And sometimes you get people who err on the side of too much description and they spend like 6 pages describing the inside of a tavern or something, and that's a waste. But you also get people who skip ahead way too quickly. They basically introduce the characters, and then like 3 pages later, those same characters are making out, or one's holding the other one while they die, or some shit. And it's like, I have zero reason to care about these people. I just don't.
Yeah.
Like, you have to create something. You have to build something in and around these people, a world and a relationship, an established situation from which I can then give a shit. Because otherwise I will not. I will give 0 shits. And like I said, sometimes when I've read other people's writing, a lot of times my main question is like, why did so-and-so do that? Like, say
Because.
like 2 people meet outside of a town or something, and one's a traveler or stranger, and the other one just invites the traveler/stranger into their home to stay. And it's like, why would they do that? Well, because that's how the story goes. Like, yes, but why? You skipped all the stuff before that where the person would have, gotten to know the other person and gotten to a point where they felt safe enough to invite them over. And
Character writing is boring. I want to have the cool action scene.
well, and that's just it. Like, you really want to move your story along, and you don't want to have to necessarily stop and explain how you got to this point, but you kind of have to, at least a little bit, especially when it's character interactions on a level of inviting somebody strange into your home, or joining up with a party you don't know, or whatever. There's a lot there that needs, like, have your people act like normal people. Have them talk like people and act like people. If it's not something you would do in real life, they shouldn't do it either. Unless they're possessed or under a spell or something. But you get me. Like, people are in such a hurry to get to the plot that they don't give me a reason to give a shit about the plot. And I just sit there and go, well, but why would they do that, though? Why would they make that choice? Why would they say that? Why would they, go this path? And it's like, that is going to derail me from enjoying the story. I need some reason to give a shit. So, when in doubt, Moby Dick. If his chest had been a cannon, he would have shot his heart upon it. That Moby Dick? God, that's a great line. Tolkien was making a massive MMO, and it worked. Tolkien's world building was immersive, in part because the descriptions wrap you up. It's not just this cold, like, outline of this, and this is here, and also this and this is here. And if you look over here, you see this, and if you look over here, you see this. It's organic. There's a lot of movement to Tolkien's descriptions. And even then, he gets carried away sometimes, and some of it's pretty boring. But you can feel yourself there. There's a warmth to the descriptions that places you in the action and places you in the world. And a lot of it is tactile. Describing how things taste and feel can be a great way to immerse people without having to go too heavy-handed on the description. Taste, feel, and smell are the 3 big ones for, like, tactile immersion. And I'm losing my voice. Nah. So, if you want to convey to people, like, the inside of a tavern, and you don't want to spend 6 pages describing, like, the beaten up wood grain tables and the antlers on the walls. I'm sorry, the fuzz stumps on the walls, and the people kicking back and sucking on ale and stuff like that. You can talk about the slightly sour smell of spilled beer. Everybody knows what that smells like.
I don't.
Slightly sour. Okay, most people know what that smells like.
I'm a good Christian boy. I don't drink alcohol.
I mean, Catholics drink wine weekly, so whatever. But
that's not beer.
Most people have a frame of reference for the sour, sickly sour smell of spilled beer. The 42nd piece of gravel upon the worn road rumbled with the crunch of a tortilla chip. Hydrate, thank you. Yeah, I mean, use references people understand, but again, taste, touch, and smell are very good tactile immersion things. So the smell of sour beer, the taste of a ripe strawberry on the tongue, like that little burst of sweet, tart, cold, temperature actually works too for things like this. Sweet, tart, cold, juicy, things like that. Like, all of that has an immersive element to it that you can't really get through sight and sound. Sight and sound are important, don't get me wrong, but we rely very heavily on sight as a descriptor. Really, really heavily. People will spend pages describing how something looks. Doesn't matter as much as some of this other stuff does in the long run. So, yeah, a ripe strawberry on the tongue. When you're talking about fabric, maybe the cold flow of silk. Silk flows like water. It's like the cold flow of silk across the fingertips. It's got that cool, soft, watery feel to it that just sort of drips off the fingertips. And you can feel that. You can put yourself there. You know what that feels like. Or the rough sandpaper texture of a burlap sack. You can kind of vibe with that. You can kind of, the textures they're a small thing, but they are really good for painting a picture in a very narrow space. And for putting your reader there. If you want your reader to feel what's happening around them, you've got to give them something to feel, not just to look at. To give them something to feel. Whip, Cool Whip. They don't have Cool Whip here in Australia, and that does bum me out. Okay, on that note, I probably should wrap up because we have gotten a start. We got to start on the script, and we got to start on the prose. And so if you look at the prose, what I wanted to convey was sentence structure. So we've got a couple of different styles of sentences here. We've got basic, subject, verb, predicate kind of things. We've got introductory clauses. Punctuation-wise, we used a semicolon right out of the gate. That's always fun. We've got our quotes working properly for America. Again, let me make that clear. This is American punctuation. We've got people talking like people basically talk. Here, let me. When somebody does something, try to keep your dialogue as people actually talk. We've got little descriptors with the action. The action is painting the picture of what's going on, so we don't have to say he's nervous. We can paint that picture with descriptors. We could even put something in here about him smelling bad if we really wanted him to be nervous. There's all different ways we can go with this. So anyway, I think that made the point I wanted to make today. I didn't want to go too hard on the actual writing because I knew that would be kind of boring, you guys just watching me write. But I liked the dynamic we had. I liked the back and forth. I liked you guys contributing and asking questions. That really helped a lot. That helped kind of flow this along. Zombie Bear with the goober. Good night, Zombie Goober. Sleep well. Thank you so much for doing that. Okay, so before I do anything else, let's say a quick goodbye to Rural. Thank you so much for hanging out, man. This has been fun. I will talk to you later. Bye-bye. Okay, now, quick housekeeping things before I wrap. I'm pushing back the subathon. The subathon is actually now going to be a week later on Friday the 27th. So watch for that. That way I can kind of roll through the weekend with it. And that will also give me a little more time to prepare for it. I'm going to put out a fresh graphic for that, so keep an eye out. But yeah, watch for that, subathon. Also, next week, Storytelling and World Building Stream Episode 4. Same time, Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. This time we'll be focusing specifically on something very timely, world building for D&D and other tabletop RPGs and beyond. Thank you for the follow. The D&D stream is going to very much focus specifically on how to world build and storytell in a situation where your players have some agency, where things don't always go the way you want. It's not a passive medium, it's very organic, and things will flow and unfold as the action moves on. So it's a very different medium than what we usually talk about. And the guest next week will be Lupus, who has years of experience as both a DM and a player for D&D and has a lot of really good thoughts about this topic. So we will be doing that. Yeah. Until then, you guys, as always, please be good. And you know what? Let's go bug Maple. Maple was here. Let's go raid Maple. You guys like Maple, right? Let's go raid Maple Sage. Go give him some love. Keep his chat moving. Tell him hi for me. And thank you guys again for being here. I hope this was fun. I hope it was informative. I hope you had a good time. And I guess I will get to work on that audio. See you guys later.